Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland and Disneyland history with mementos, snapshots, and postcards sent from Disneyland from 1955 to the present. The postcards from this episode will be viewable on Instagram at Sent from Disneyland or on my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. Today I'm starting off by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join in and receive mail from my desk or from my trips to Disneyland. I'm currently working on some new patron benefits. Patrons can sign up for as little as $1 per month. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the e-ticket patrons Tania, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Booker, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, Scott Cagle, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Grace Coate, Ben and Noel Bruning, and Patty Wool. B-ticket patrons The Disney Rewind Podcast, and Jeff and Paige Orton. And to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Maggie and Henry Byers, Angelica Nablock, and the All Aboard Podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has 4 images of Disneyland: Sleeping Beauty Castle, the Mark Twain riverboat with the Matterhorn in the far distance, a Jungle Cruise boat going through the dangerous hippo pool, and the entrance of Tomorrowland, where you can see the People Mover, the Carousel of Progress building, and the rocket jets. On the back it reads, 1. Sleeping Beauty Castle. 2. Mark Twain Steamboat. 3. Jungle Cruise. 4. Tomorrowland. It's postmarked December 21st, 1972, with a Los Angeles cancel and a 6-cent Eisenhower postage stamp, Scott number 1393. I assume they visit the park on Wednesday, December 20th, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to midnight. The weather was a high of 81 and a low of 49. It's addressed to a Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Patrick of Endicott, New York. It reads, Dear Marie and Pat, what a beautiful place to see. Not enough time for us to see all. These are things we did see on the card. See you soon. Love, Sis Helen. I was looking back through 1973 for 50th anniversaries we would expect to see at Disneyland this year. Combing through my maps, guidebooks, and almanac, found that 1973 was a year of closures. The 2 most notable closures being the Carousel of Progress and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. The Carousel of Progress, which closed September 9th, 1973, following a busy summer season, was revived in Florida, with the sets and audio animatronics being brought across the country and placed in an identical show building. Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln closed New Year's Day in 1973. The Walt Disney Story replaced the attraction. This new attraction was based on the Walt Disney A Legacy for the Future exhibit, which was on Main Street for 3 years. The Walt Disney Story included art, awards, movie props, and other artifacts from Walt's life, and included a 28-minute film presentation in the Opera House Theater. Eventually, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln moved back into the Opera House Theater and coexisted as the Walt Disney Story featuring Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. In Frontierland, the Pack Mules, which I recently talked about in episode 153, Sent by a Donkey, also left the park in 1973. The last 2 closures were shops in New Orleans Square, a hat shop called La Chapeau, and Le Forgeron, which was a blacksmith shop which sold decorative metal and glass items. Do you know what's great to put on a special greeting card? Vintage stamps from Enfield Post. Be sure to check out the special Sunday sales at EP Sunday Sale on Instagram. It's a great way to add a little bit of flair to a birthday card, holiday card, or a postcard. That's EP Sunday Sale on Instagram, or you can head over to EnfieldPost.com and explore all the different vintage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and EnfieldPost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has the CK Holiday train engine pulling through the It's a Small World facade. You can see guests on boats below heading into the attraction. On the back it reads, It's a Small World. Along the winding 7 seaways, guests embark on the happiest cruise that ever sailed, Disneyland's exciting musical fantasy, It's a Small World. It's postmarked March 1st, 1973, with a U.S. Postal Service always use a zip code cancel and an 8-cent Eisenhower postage stamp, Scott number 1395. I assume they visit the park on Wednesday, February 28th, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The weather was a high of 67 and a low of 55, with 0.68 inches of precipitation. It's addressed to a Mr. and Mrs. Leo Rushlaw of Saginaw, Michigan. It reads, March 1, 73. Hi, how are you? We've been looking for a note from you, but so far none. We are up to see Jerry and Ingrid for a few days. They took us on a grand tour of Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and LA, also along the shore as far north as Santa Barbara. A beautiful drive. We also saw Disneyland and Capistrano. Could have spent a couple of days at Disneyland. We plan on being home on the 12th. See you soon. Love, Walter and Viola. Looking at the entertainment options in the park in 1973, there are some guests can still experience at the park today. Seasonal entertainment like the Disneyland All-American College Band, and Disneyland staples like the Dapper Dans, the Coke Corner Pianist, the Pearly Band, and the Royal Street Bachelors. 2 musical entertainment options which I found fascinating performed at the Plaza Inn. Currently, the only entertainment guests can experience at the Plaza Inn would be a character breakfast or the view of a parade going by on Main Street at the Hub. In 1973, there were 2 entertainment options which might perform near your table. One was the Plaza Inn accordionist, which is listed in my spring 1973 guide map as music to accompany your dining in the elegant Plaza Inn on Main Street. In the summer of 1973, the guide map lists the Plaza Inn strings, describing them as continental melodies for your dining pleasure in the Plaza Inn on Main Street. Other fun nighttime entertainment included Class of 27, performing music of the 1920s in the Golden Horseshoe, Sunshine Balloon, playing contemporary music on the Tomorrowland Terrace stage, and Teddy Buckner and his All-Stars, playing smooth jazz and red-hot Dixieland music at the French Market in New Orleans Square. Finally, 50 years ago from the day this podcast was being recorded, there was a New Year's Eve party to ring in 1973. It went from 8:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. This was a special ticketed event with access to unlimited attractions, no A through E ticket required, and top-named entertainers. I couldn't find any specific information on the performers, but the ticket would have been around $9 to $11 for the night. Of course, at midnight, there was a fireworks display. This incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is an online craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. Be sure to check out Monday's ATD, which is usually hosted by paper artist Russ Romano. I've seen many amazing art projects, learned about awesome postmarks, postage stamp history, and a lot more on different episodes. It's great to stop in for an hour to watch someone craft or design something unique. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has the poster art for Walt Disney Presents Pluto in The Legend of Coyote Rock, with Pluto surprised in the center with a small black sheep and a hungry coyote. It's postmarked December 19th, 2022, with the Santa Ana Cancel and a Winter Barn Forever postcard postage stamp, Scott number 5551. It reads, December 2022. Dear Clocky, my favorite mail carrier, my grandson, carried this postcard to Disneyland to mail from me to you. Feel the magic. Love, Triche. Thank you so much for the postcard, Triche. This is my last postcard from 2022 that I've received from the park. I hope you and everyone listening have full mailboxes in 2023 and enjoy some of the magic of snail mail from Disneyland or all around the world. My journey this year with postcards has allowed me to meet new friends and make connections from many different countries. I always ask my post-crossing friends to add a story about going to the parks or something about Disneyland, and I've received a lot of suggestions to visit some international non-Disney parks. I've looked up the videos about these parks, and I am amazed by the theming and effort put into them. Also, this Pluto cartoon short is not available on Disney+, so I'll be sending in the title as a suggestion to add to the streaming service. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would be awesome to share your favorite episode. There are over 100 episodes to choose from. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/SentFromDisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sent From Disneyland, or on Twitter at Sent From Disney. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent From Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to its host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast.